Welcome everybody to our podcast, Generational Gains. This is my father, Greg Herlean, and myself, Carson Herlean. We are entrepreneurs and business owners. He's had a business for a very long time, and I'm still in the early years of building my career. And we do this podcast every week talking about struggles we have, successes we have, and stories about how we're building our businesses and how he's built his. And just providing value to those watching about who want to learn more about real estate, who want to learn more about investing and how to manage money. And so today we have an interesting topic. There's been a lot going on the internet talking about real estate and taxes and Donald Trump, for example, and how Donald Trump, he's getting so much hate online because he doesn't pay taxes. He makes millions of dollars a year and everyone hates him for not paying taxes like the normal person does. And we want to talk about that because what he does is real, it's legal, it's smart, and most other business owners and real estate investors do very similar things. And so we just want to kind of talk about that idea. And I know you've done a lot of things, Dad, in the real estate space, and you've learned all about the tax structures with different entities and different funds and stuff and how to buy properties. And so I'm really pulling from you today to learn a little bit about this idea. And so I know you had a couple stories you wanted to share about this, and I just want to hear your thoughts to start about what Donald Trump talks about, what he does.
Yeah, so look, first and foremost, we're not here on a political agenda at all. I'm not saying I am we're not saying we're pro-Trump or pro-Biden. That's not the point of this podcast. I really think it's interesting because we hear it in the news all the time. Everyone is so mad because his tax returns have come out, right?
Yeah.
Years after year, and he's not paying much in taxes, but he's not making millions. He's making like tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's paying very little in taxes. So really the question is how is he doing that? So look, people talk about it, and I think it's interesting. I feel like most things in life, the rich and the entrepreneurs and business owners keep getting richer and more wealthy because they're using the rules and playing the game. And I don't think there's anyone listening to this who doesn't, who wants to pay more in taxes. Like if we told you a loophole or a rule or something that you can be doing to pay less in taxes, you would do it.
Yeah.
And that's probably most likely what Trump is doing.
Yeah. He just has more money, so more people working for him to find more of the tax loopholes.
And he's probably being more aggressive than he should. So he's getting in trouble for it. So also, before we get too deep in this as well, always recommend that you talk to your CPA. We don't know your situation, your tax situation, on what you can and cannot write off and how that works. But we wanted to share, and I wanted to share in particular, some things that I have done and or I've seen people do.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Trump for a second. So, Trump is not breaking the rules and laws when he goes and buys a piece of real estate, right? And he puts a lot of debt on there. So I don't know so one of the things I think is interesting is when you buy real estate, there's definitely tax advantages. You can get some depreciation every year, but also when after you buy a piece of real estate, you can put additional leverage or debt on real estate. And when you borrow, let me give you a simple example. Let's say that I buy an asset, an investment that's $700,000. Mm-hmm. It's cash flowing. Mm-hmm. It's a commercial building or residential rental property or something. And I then refinance and or get additional debt. Let's say it
like a HELOC.
Yeah, like a home equity.
Credit.
Sure.
Yeah.
And let's say the value of the home after 6 or 12 or 18 months goes up from $700,000 I bought to $1.2 million. Mm-hmm. Well, I go and get a new loan for $900,000 or $1 million, or a HELOC for $250,000, right? When I take out that HELOC or that dollar amount, do I pay taxes on it?
Nope.
No, I pay nothing on taxes on that loan. In fact, I get to write off the interest on that loan. Mm-hmm. So
then you'll use that to buy another asset, which then is again more debt, so you can't get taxed on debt.
So imagine what I just said, but times 100.
Yeah.
So when you and I are buying an asset for $1 million or $10 million, Trump's buying an asset for $100 million or $400 million.
Yeah.
So when he's able to leverage and borrow out $40 or $50 or $60 million, he's not paying taxes on that debt.
Yeah.
And so I think him being creative and using debt and leverage to his advantage he's got every right to do it. And so do you and I. And we can do it at every level we want. And so I think when it comes to taxes, I think that's probably one thing that we've heard and I've read that Trump is doing. He's really good at from a real estate perspective.
Well, it's interesting too because people like Dave Ramsey or Susie Orman, when they say that's bad, don't get debt, that's what's keeping people poor. Not everyone should get debt, but there is good debt. Like Robert Kiyosaki says in his book, like there is good debt and there's bad debt. And if you're using the good debt to accumulate assets that you obviously have underwritten, you know what the risk involved, and it still makes sense, then you should be getting that type of debt. Debt's not always bad. And so I think we're also just taught as Americans, we're forced down in our brains to not have debt, get rid of debt, when in reality, debt's what makes people rich most of the time.
Well, look, I think this is a great subject to talk about because there's definitely bad debt. Like credit card debt is bad debt.
Yeah.
There's other kinds of debt that's bad debt. In general, if you're starting out at zero, or even if you're starting out and you've got a little bit of assets, I didn't get where I'm at today without debt. I had to take risk.
Without leverage.
And borrow and leverage as much as I could in the beginning, but I wasn't risking a ton because I didn't have a ton.
Yeah.
I think as I had more success and built more equity and wealth, I was able to pick and choose how much leverage I wanted. So it's easy for me to say now, hey, look, you should only get leverage of 70 or 60% on your assets. Well, that's the case for someone who has money. Mm-hmm. But when you have no money or very little money, I would encourage you to go out and get a loan and borrow 95% or as much as you can get because you need to build wealth. And leverage is one of the best ways of actually starting to compound and build true equity. And then as far as from a tax perspective, like the Trump example we gave, or anybody, frankly, when you're paying interest on loans, that's a tax credit. You're getting a tax credit, and then you're also getting depreciation on the asset over time if it's a rental property or a commercial property. So there's a lot of tax advantage as well. But I truly believe that there is more wealth to be made and created through real estate than there really is almost anything else.
Yeah.
And so that wealth is not only created through the assets, but it's also a creative way of creating it through paying less in taxes. You and I could be doing making the same kind of money. You could be a doctor, orthodontist, and I'm buying real estate that gives me cash flow, but I have an asset that gives me some write-offs that are pretty incredible, or depreciation. And over a 5 or 10 year period of time, I'll have more money making the same amount because I have more tax write-offs. Yeah. So that's definitely one thing as well.
I've always wondered this too, because like when you get to another level, you're buying assets in general. That could be real estate. It could be businesses. So are there tax write-offs or tax help when you're buying businesses?
Buying businesses is different than running businesses. I think the more of the tax, the reason why entrepreneurs love starting businesses is not only the freedom and control, right, and being their own boss, but there are some great tax advantages because you're able to put so many things into your business that maybe aren't write-offs before.
Fair, that's a good way to put it.
So you could have additional cars, or even some people go as far as one of their rooms in their house is an office, and that you can write off a percentage of the house. So there's when I first started 23 years ago, when I was doing my own tax return with TurboTax, and it would ask you, do you have a home office, right? I'd say, yes, I did. I had a little office. One of the rooms is an office. What's the square footage? So I was able to allocate a certain percentage towards that. And so as a business owner, you get additional tax write-offs as well, for sure.
That's a good way to put it. Different than real estate, though.
Different than real estate.
Yeah.
So let's talk about one other thing I think that I'm still learning about. And I think I had a phone call from somebody, actually this last week, who called me, actually knew Jessica from the gym, which I thought was really funny. And he approached her and said, is your husband in the car business? And she thought that because she would drive my car and then her car. And she's like, no, that's not what he does. He does real estate. And he's like, well, do you think I could call him? I have some tax questions. So he calls me and I'm like, well, look, I'm not a tax guy, first of all. But he said, well, can you give me some recommendations? And so here's some advice I'd give to someone as far as real estate goes and taxes too, as well. he had a dilemma because he had bought a piece of property, sold it, made a lot of money
In California.
and he waited more than 6 months, so he couldn't 1031 it. So if he can't 1031 it, now he's going to pay taxes. So he was asking me, this gentleman was asking me, he's like, hey, so it's 1031, I missed the 6 months window. And so therefore, what can I do to limit my exposure and taxes on this big gain that I had? And
he flipped it, basically bought it.
So he bought it and sold it.
Same year.
But he didn't want to pay tax on it. It wasn't the same year, but he couldn't 1031 it because the 6 months had passed.
Yeah.
And so what he did, so he's got this cash, and it's this year, 2024, thankfully. He said, is there anything you know that I can do? And here's what I would recommend, and I'm still learning. I've done this on two assets, and I recommend you diving into this. If you have any big exits and big income, and you are a real estate professional, now that's part of this. What's the right words? This is part of the recipe of getting this bonus depreciation. There's something called cost seg. They call it cost segregation. It's basically a way to get a bonus depreciation on an asset to help offset income.
It's getting depreciation in the first couple of years, right? When you purchase an asset or sell an asset.
That when you buy an asset. So let me give you an example. So right now, typically, if you were to buy an investment property, it has land and a building on it, structure. Okay, well, the land, that you can't bonus depreciate, but the building you can get something called bonus depreciation, which is a huge thing where you can actually get, depending upon the asset and the valuation, a lot of times get up to 60% of the building's value depreciated in year one.
So if you bought a home for $100,000, you could write off $60,000 of income that year.
Well,
essentially, obviously breaking it down between the lot and the building and all that.
Let's just do that same example. Bless you. Let's do that same example.
Yeah.
Let's say let's do $1 million, a little easier. So someone buys a building or a rental property for $1 million, and they get a third-party valuator that does cost seg for a living. And we have those recommendations, by the way. If you're ever looking for a recommendation on who to use for cost seg, I've got a handful of people that are really good at this. You pay a firm, and it's going to range anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000 to do this valuation. They're going to come back and say, this $1 million asset you just bought, the land's worth $300,000, and the building's worth $700,000. And because it's worth $700,000, and they look at everything. They look at they look at the depreciation of the HVAC, the paint. They go through all these different things, and they'll say it's $700,000 is the building, and you're able to depreciate 50 or 60 or 40% of the $700,000.
Yeah.
So you're going to get $300,000 or $400,000 in a tax bonus depreciation on just that one asset. What does that do? That helps offset other income.
Yeah.
If you are a real estate professional, you can do this. If you're not a real estate professional, you're not able to take advantage of cost seg. And what a real estate professional is, the IRS says, is you have to do 1,000. You have to in a year do 1,000 hours. I have 1,000 hours in real estate. Now, a lot of people have a lot of questions after that. Well, what constitutes real estate? I'm not here to tell you. So that you can figure out. But someone like you and I, where we're spending a lot of time and energy on real estate, due diligence, looking at deals, evaluating loans, financing, that all those hours build up, and you would have no problem. I'd have no problem having $1,000 or 1,000 years, 1,000 hours in a year, and I would be deemed as a real estate professional. If you're not a real estate professional, you most likely are only going to be able to get up to $25,000. So there's a big difference. This is not. Everyone does not get this to do a cost seg and bonus depreciation. So this is one of the best ways. If you're looking, and you're a real estate professional, if you're looking to defer or not pay taxes this year, now eventually this bonus depreciation will catch up to you. But on this subject, and I'm not going to dive too much deeper into bonus depreciation and cost seg. If you're in that boat and you're listening to this and you're like, hey, look, I want to know more about it, talk to your CPA. Google it, research it. There's a really good opportunity if you're a real estate professional that you could be, when you're buying assets, writing off different income. You can write off passive income from real estate investments. You can also write off income that comes from other businesses.
Yeah.
So it is a game changer when it comes to taxes. And I think, again, going back to Trump, like him or hate him, he's using the rules to his advantage. So he's paying the IRS tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars less. And what is he doing with that money? Rather than paying it to the IRS, he's buying more assets and leveraging more assets, just like you said.
Yeah.
And so this is truly a way, if you can take advantage of these tax opportunities, to grow your wealth much quicker than someone that maybe is still in real estate but not taking advantage of these rules.
Yeah. It's a great way to put it. I need to be doing more cost segregation. And most business owners and other people who have other things going on, like I have other things going on too, they probably still could qualify to be a real estate professional. They probably still could buy 1 to 2 small properties a year, and most people could probably do that. And you could take advantage of that idea.
As long as you're a real estate professional.
As long as you're a real estate professional. So a lot of people can take advantage of that idea, and it's
well, and Trump is. I mean, Trump's definitely
he's doing it on a large scale.
He's got so much real estate. So I think the cost seg is one of the best ways. The second best way for tax reasons is buying and leveraging your assets. Yeah. That is one of the best ways. And so if you're in that boat, those are probably the 2 best ways of doing it. Now, there's other tax advantages as well, just using your retirement money when you buy assets too.
That's a good way to put it. We can talk about Peter Thiel too. So what did Peter Thiel do? For those of you who don't know, Peter Thiel, he was the owner, one of the owners of PayPal.
He was a partner in PayPal.
And he started, when he put his money in the company as they started, he did it through his retirement account, through his IRA. His IRA owned equity in PayPal. So then what happened? Well,
what's best, it was his Roth IRA. And we talked about Roths before, but a Roth IRA is after tax dollars. So this was
which means it will grow tax-free, never to be touched if it's in a Roth.
It'll come out tax-free too. And so, this was, I believe, a passive investment for him. And typically retirement accounts need to be passive investments.
Yeah.
So he wasn't the one doing day-to-day managing PayPal, but he was one of the original partners. Now, we all have heard good ideas. I mean, this idea could have been a flop. Right? I mean, we all wish we could have been part of PayPal or Uber or whatever, Instacart, whatever's the newest thing.
Yeah.
But for every great idea, there's probably a million bad ones.
Yeah.
So he happened to know the right people, invest in the right deal, and put his Roth up for equity. And he's a great example. He turned his $5,000, and it could have been a little bit more than $5,000, but I don't think it was more than $100,000 in his Roth, to hundreds of millions of dollars when he sold.
Yeah.
And so when he sold that, he then invested in a new business.
Well, when he sold PayPal, that few $100 million he made goes back to the Roth IRA, tax-free gain on a $500,000 to $100,000 investment.
That's right.
That's crazy.
You too can be doing this. So if you're looking for opportunities where you can avoid paying taxes because maybe you make too much money already, you're like, hey, look, I already have a job. I already have some other assets. I'd like to invest in this new business, but I don't want to be taxed on it. Use your retirement account in a passive way. If you do it that way, and even if it's not a Roth, you still don't pay taxes on a traditional until later on when you pull it out. So that would be the second way also of investing.
So Peter Thiel was genius then when he invested through his Roth IRA. If he would have gone through a traditional IRA, made a few $100 million, he would have paid a lot of taxes when he pulled all that out. So it's really smart for him to invest through his Roth, which is why I think the Roth IRA is probably one of the best assets to invest in for businesses because of that, obviously. So if you're looking to invest in a business through your old 401k or traditional IRA, would you say that you should probably roll it over to a Roth before doing that? Or what would you suggest in that situation?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you think you've got a winner, a PayPal or anything that's a decent, a solid return, first and foremost, you should convert so if you move your traditional IRA over to us and we hold your IRA, we can convert that to a Roth.
Yeah.
And that's probably something real quick I want to mention too. Converting to a Roth, there's a time to do that. And the right time to convert to a Roth would be in a year when you do have depreciation and write-offs.
Yeah.
Then it will offset your income that you're going to get when you convert.
So you're saying if like you bought a property, you did a bonus depreciation, you did a cost seg study, you had a lot of write-offs for the year. The same year you roll over your 401k traditional into a Roth IRA because then you're going to owe taxes on that. And then at the end of the day,
it'll offset each other.
And so now you get all your money in Roth IRAs.
And not really have to pay too much for it.
So if you had 100K in a traditional and you roll it to a Roth, and you would potentially owe 20 grand in taxes, would they still take it out, or you still get the whole 100 over?
No, you would end up, no, you wouldn't have to take it out. You would just owe $20,000 or $30,000, but with the bonus depreciation,
it'd write it off.
It could be a wash.
So you still have the whole.
So you still have $100,000 at traditional, that becomes a Roth.
Smart.
And so and then the other thing that you can do as well, not to get too technical, is if let's say you have a $500,000 traditional and you roll it over to us, you can convert, let's say, based upon your depreciation without, to offset it, a part of it to a Roth.
Yeah.
And then every year move a part over into your Roth.
Yeah.
So eventually over time with your tax, and depreciation, et cetera, you'll get it all into your Roth.
Yeah.
And so look, this is one of the ways, and again, these are just technical little things people just don't know about or get lazy about that are game changers.
Yeah.
So, I just was with a good friend of mine, Brett Tanner, and he was talking about his Roth IRA. And he's like, look, I just saved my sweetheart deals for my Roths. So these deals that I'm going to make 50% on or double up on, that goes in my Roth. But if it's a business or a real estate deal that's going to make average returns 8, 10, 12%, I typically do it outside my Roth. Huh. Or if it's, an asset that you're doing cost seg, you can't do it with your Roth. You want to do it outside of your retirement account. So
smart.
So look, when looking for and building wealth, get strategic. You don't have to be as aggressive as Trump, but maybe you do. That's up for you and your CPA.
Yeah.
There are some simple things you can be doing. We talked about them today. You can leverage and borrow against your equity. You don't pay taxes on that. You pay interest, but you don't pay taxes. You can do a cost seg and get bonus depreciation. Mm-hmm. You can invest using your retirement account. These are 3 simple ways of really maximizing your tax returns and paying less to the IRS.
I love it. Awesome. I learned a lot. Thanks for that. I'm sure our viewers did as well. And so as all our viewers know, this is your first time. This is something we do at the end of each episode. We finish where we talk about our sweets of the week or the day, our sour, and our service, any service we've done this week. And so you want to go first?
Yeah, I would say this last week, my sweet absolutely was actually being at an event and being able to go really deep into what I do. Not very often do I get to, I talk about self-directing often, but I got to sit with 140 different entrepreneurs, business owners, and they were drilling me with questions and getting very creative of assets and how to self-direct. And so I found a lot of value in being there with Tanner's group. It was really nice. That was a really big sweet for me. A sour for me is I was supposed to be there for 4 days, and I was speaking up for 2 of the 4 days. And so I decided I wanted to come home. That was definitely not the sour, it was a sweet, but I was on a flight every day almost. So I flew. I was on like 6 planes last week. So that was a lot for me as far as a sour goes. I don't like being on 6 planes in 1 week.
Yeah.
And a service, I'd say a service was helping a good friend of mine today with some hard questions on what he should do with his building that his business is in. He had some really interesting questions on how to leverage and maximize his return on a building that his business happens to be in. So I spent some time with him today, and it was well worth it.
That's cool.
That's my sweet sour service.
It's cool. For me, I'll start with service. 2 days ago was Mother's Day, so I went over to my mother's house and made dinner for her with my siblings. That was awesome. It was a great time. And actually, I'll tell you, it was funny. I thought it would be funny to give her a card, but on the card, it'd be a Happy Mother's Day Grandma card, like for a grandma. And so the front of it was like Grandma, Mima, whatever, like all like the names grandmas would get. And she looked at it and she's reading. She's like, "Oh, this is so funny and cute." And then she was like, "Are you pregnant?" And she like freaked out, like I hit a heart attack for like 2 seconds. She was like stone cold.
That's
and
awesome.
we were joking with her.
That's awesome.
And so and she was freaking out for 5 minutes afterwards, like
that's awesome.
Like thinking it was real. So that was a funny joke.
That's funny.
So that was really funny. That's a good sweet for the week, messing with my mom.
Yeah, that's funny.
But sour, I'm just trying to learn how to get better at my social media. And so I feel like I've had some posts that weren't as good or some that were better than I thought. And so I'm just
trying to figure it out.
So that's been kind of sour, kind of hard, but like it's been good. So it's been what I've been working on lately. And I think that's it. So thank you guys for listening. This is our favorite thing to do each week together. Hope you guys enjoy it as well.
Have a good day.